01, the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item 1.02 is order and approval of the agenda.
To approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye, motion passes. Item 1.03 is input from the public. This is a period devoted to comments by the general public, if any. In the interest of privacy and due process, the public is requested to not raise personnel issues except in a legally noticed closed personnel session of the board. Comments are limited to 3 consecutive minutes. The speaker's time may not be reserved, divided, apportioned, or deferred. No action may be taken upon a matter raised under this item of the agenda until the matter itself has been included specifically on an agenda as an item upon which action will be taken. I do have a submission here for public comment from John Smalls. Sorry. Smells. You told me, and I'm sorry. Come on up. If you could again, just state your name for the record. And make sure the green light is there on the microphone too.
Hello, my name is John Smells.
Is it? Oh, the light?
It's on.
Okay, perfect.
My name is John Smells. You want me to rattle on with what I got to
Go right ahead.
got to say here? Okay. Dear Elko County School District Board members and staff, my name is John Smells, owner of Trash Bandits Disposal, a locally owned full-service waste disposal company in Elko County. I'm here today to formally address a concerning matter of disappointment concerning your waste management services outside Elko city limits. We started in mid-2025 attempting to contact Matt Stockey. After 8 phone calls and emails with no response, it wasn't until May 6, 2026, approximately 8 months later in time, my office finally got a hold of him as we called to inquire on a different matter, as we are primarily a construction firm, Legion Construction and Development. That call was in regards to the Wells Gymnasium re-roof project. While my lady was on the phone call, she mentioned the numerous attempts of trying to get a hold of him, Matt. Explained that he had been busy and that he apologizes and please resend the information in regards to our trash service pricing sheets and what have you. He told us that he would have his office get in contact with us to explore their options. Maribel reached out the same day explaining that she will be looking into this matter throughout the month of May and leading up to June 16th. There were 14 emails and phone calls of discussions. Maribel did inform us that we were considerably lower than their current provider. Those 14 discussions included language of the following. We are almost 100% certain that we are going to make the switch. We made it aware to Maribel several times the ordering of more dumpsters to accommodate all. We were told from Maribel that we were waiting for Matt to call and cancel Elko Sanitation, as this took some time, as we were told Matt was out sick. We were asked from Maribel the best time when we can deliver our dumpsters. Meanwhile, we were 100% certain based off these multiple discussions, enough so to order $22,000 of units. That's another added reason why I'm here today, as we were led to believe that this switch was taking place. Also to note, I reviewed the last board meeting, June 16th, the day after receiving our Dear John letter, and trash services were mentioned at that hearing. It was discussed they had worked out a deal with their current provider and are now saving considerably, but no mention of Trash Bandits pricing or communications that led to spurring this event to take place, as it possibly would have not occurred if not for Trash Bandits. It's disappointing that we were not mentioned at that hearing and the discussion to be discussed and left to be voted on by board members.
I'm sorry too, I got to stop you right there
Okay.
because we're at 3 minutes.
Oh.
However, I'm very, very interested in what you have to say, and I'm sure others are as well. If you could send us an email regarding all that. If you have it typed out, it sounds
Yeah.
like, I'd love to
That'd
have
be
it
best.
finished. That'd be awesome. Thank you.
Okay, is that
Okay.
all?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there is another 3-minute period at the end of the meeting as
Okay.
well. If
It's
you want
on.
to hang around for that, you're
No, I
welcome
can
to
just
as well.
email you guys. Do you have a card or something? Who's the best point of contact?
We can get that for you right here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
Thank you, Mr. Smiles.
Is there any other further public comment? All right. Get back to my agenda here. Hearing none, we'll move on to item 2, which is the consent agenda.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye, and motion passes. On to accounts payable, item 3.01, that's receipt, discussion, and possible approval of accounts payable.
Move to approve the accounts payable.
Second. I have a couple questions, if I could.
Yeah, let's have some discussion.
Actually, they'd be more for Mrs. Stolke. On pages 5 and 6, Spring Creek High School electricity is $20,719. That seems really high. So just wondering if that's normal. Not really.
So on the Spring Creek High School, can you get that either?
No.
I reviewed Spring Creek High School and it looks like the middle school was incorporated with that, so we're gonna be completing a journal entry. Spring Creek High School was only about 12,000. And then the remaining portion was pretty much Spring Creek Middle School, and then there was a small portion that was about $2,000 where there's a couple sites on Boyd Kennedy where a well is at, where we have electricity running as well.
Oh, okay, okay. And then on page 6, the Frontier bills, Wendover Elementary Schools, 1564, but Wendover High School's only 935, and then the junior high is only 8396. So I'm just wondering, that's big differences between the 3 schools.
And when I looked at the coding on how AP codes it, it looks like from the bill right now, West Wendover Elementary has 4 lines, and West Wendover Middle School and the high school each have 1 line. So I have Carrie also reviewing that just to make sure that's accurate.
Okay. And then on, it's probably somewhere, but I would just went to the references that are on there. On page 37, the rec, there's 2 entries for exactly the same amount of $10,128.50 and 2 entries for the exact same amount of $25.72. And I'm just wondering how those are exactly the same.
So that's Wells Rural Electricity. So we added up, there was 2 invoices on that 1 PO, and we split them equally in half and charged to the elementary school and then to the high school
Okay.
bill. So then there would be 4 actual charges since there was 2 invoices.
Okay.
So 2 accounts, the elementary and high school on each invoice.
Okay, I was just wondering how they ended up being exactly the same, so that makes
Yeah,
sense.
we just split it in
Okay.
half.
Thank you.
Mhm.
That's all I had.
All right, board, any further discussion on accounts payable?
I will disclose that I have a family member who works for Wells Rural Electric, but I will not be abstaining.
I also will disclose that I have a family member who works for Wells Rural Electric but won't be abstaining from voting.
All right, any other disclosures or discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye, motion passes. Moving on, item 4.01, receipt, review, and possible approval of resolutions to augment the budget of the Risk Mitigation Fund. Ms. Dahlke, you're right back at it.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I'd like to, at the pleasure of the board, discuss items 4.01, 4.02, 4.03, 4.04, and 4.05 collectively. And depending on the preference of the board, make one motion to approve all of those since they're all financial and all are in regards to legally required items that we have to do.
Chair's fine with that. I meant to talk to you about that. In fact, I'm glad you caught that.
I probably should have done it on consent agenda, when we were approving the agenda, but I figured we'd wait until we got here.
Unless there's any objections from the board, we'll address all 4.01 through 4.05 together. Ms. Stahlke.
Okay, 4.01 is the augmentation to the risk mitigation fund. This was a new fund that we created where we're just using the interest that is the percentage ratio for our general fund for all of our cash. It goes into an investment account every night. And when I initially did the budget, I did not include that in there. So this is just showing our estimated earnings on investment for FY26, where I just increased it from 0 to 468,000. There's no budgeted expenditures in that. That account will just sit as a rainy day fund.
Ms. Stahlke, the rainy day fund, who has access to that or when will it be accessed?
So
And say
I
who
don't
has
have
access,
the,
but-
I don't have the resolution, but when we created that fund and approved it, the resolution said it was for any fiscal emergencies, natural disasters. It's also regulated by NRS, that specific fund is. And then I believe in there, we also said that we could use it to help with insurance deficits as
So
well.
would that be after board action or the board has already approved CFO or the superintendent to deal with that?
It would come to the board.
Thank you.
The next fund that I'm augmenting is the at-risk fund. As I've been going through, I've been moving expenses, trying to get our budget in a somewhat better position. And I am augmenting it to remove the ending fund balance of $352,710 and use that for expenditures. So that would make the ending fund balance 0. The next two items, 4.3 and 4.4, are interfund loans, and this is also an annual request. And I believe I have 4.5 on there as well. Okay. So every year we have some funds, like our grant funds, that are expecting reimbursement from the state, where the general fund is usually covering a portion of the cash to pay the bills as we're waiting for reimbursement. So the first one that I have is the Adult Education Fund. And that one we're requesting $30,000 from the general fund to cover Fund 230 until our reimbursement comes in. I believe right now that fund, the cash deficit is currently $7,000, but we have a reimbursement in for the state. The next one is the Health Insurance Fund. We paid back a portion of the interfund loan, but this is just the interfund loan that's carrying over for the next year. We have made changes to our insurance premiums and to some of the structure of our self-insurance fund, but it's going to take a few years to actually realize those gains. So right now, the Health Insurance Fund, I already have the interfund loan in there. We are requesting $3,442,747.93 to cover the cash deficit.
Ms. Stahlke, that's about half of what we did last year, correct?
I don't remember what the
Okay.
loan was last year for the cash.
Like it was like $7 million that we had to
That was
transfer.
the ending fund deficit. So this is just the cash portion that comes from the general fund.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I'll go over the ending fund balances when I give my update too. And the last one is the Special Education Fund, where we're actually we would not have enough cash in the general fund to cover the deficit, so we're requesting 1.3 million from the Buildings and Sites Fund to be paid back in the next year.
And do we see any concerns with the actual numbers coming through? The state's not going to reduce these because of a reduced enrollment, are they?
The SPED fund is that's based off our expenditures, our total expenditures, and that's on a biennium. So what we put on our 387 report when they look at expenditures that we've had in addition to what they've funded, they'll use what they funded and then add any deficit expenditures that we've had as well.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chair, I move to approve 4.01 through 4.05 as written, with the understanding that each of us will need to sign each of the resolutions as appropriate.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Just a question. What would happen if we didn't have the money to do this?
So like right now, if we had the 2 interfund loans and then we were out of cash, we would be using restricted cash at that point. So there's certain funds that you can't actually use the cash for other funds for the interfund loans. And that would be like our federal funds, our state funds, our pay-as-you-go fund. Let's see, our student activities, any unrestricted funds, we'd be doing that, and that's a statute violation.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye, motion passes. All right, moving on to 4.06, that's review and discussion regarding an update on the fiscal year 25-26 budget.
So we're still in the process of closing things out, but I just wanted to give you guys an idea of where we're standing. Right now, I'm projecting an ending fund balance of negative 2.4 million for this year. So far, we've had revenues of 110 million and expenses of 116. Our current fund balance right now is negative 1.5 million. I've requested our last PCFP payment from the state to come in, and they've initiated that. It hasn't hit our bank yet. That'll be about 9 million, but we still have $9.8 million in payroll expenses that are encumbered. And then we do have one more AP run as well. This has brought, so right now currently our cash for the general fund is negative 6.5. Once we get that $9 million in, it'll bring it back up. But that was where I had to use the Buildings and Sites Fund for the interfund loan because there wouldn't be quite enough at the end of the fiscal year to cover the SPED fund.
Just to be clear, though, we're not in danger of being insolvent or bouncing checks or any of that.
No, we're currently, since we have cash, we're fine. If we were in the cash deficit, we would be using restricted funds, and that most likely would be using funds from our state fund. Because right now in the state fund, we have $24.7 million in cash. So if you were to pool up all cash, right now we'd have $25 million.
I just want to make it clear to the public that even though we're throwing out that we're negative here, it doesn't mean we're not paying bills. And
no, we're able to make payroll and continue, but yeah, we are at a risk of borrowing cash right now. For the insurance fund, our beginning fund balance was negative 7.5. Our revenues that were brought in were 19.7, and our expenses were 18.4, so our ending fund balance right now is negative 6.2. I did at the beginning of the year, the insurance premium increases didn't take place until August. So I did have to transfer in $4.7 million, 4.75. Of that, I did pay back 1.8 of that transfer. I reversed it. So I think if my math is correct, we have about 1.9 that is still transferred. An option that we could consider at this point with board approval is if we wanted to reverse those transfer back and then just have the insurance fund at an increased deficit and then recoup the costs from the general fund at that point. If we were to bring that back, we would be closer to a zero or maybe even a positive balance in the general fund.
What are the implications on both? If you could elaborate more on like what the advantage, or what should we be doing? What would your recommendation be?
My recommendation would be, right now, if we're transferring funds to the insurance fund, you're giving them the money. There's not a requirement to pay it back. If we were to leave it deficit, then at that point, it would show that the general fund was covering the expenses for that, where we would be able to then show that the insurance fund owes the general fund. I also think when it comes down to the Department of Taxation and the Commission on Local Government Finance, it's obvious that statewide that there's issues with insurance as well as SPED not being funded appropriately. If we have those two funds that are deficit, but then we're still able to show our general fund is slightly positive, I think that looks better than having three funds that are deficit where we're just taking money from one fund to partially cover a full expense of another.
So Ms. Dahlke, if we went with your loan option for the insurance fund.
Yeah, and it wouldn't be a loan. We would just be reimbursing that transfer out. So.
Okay, so under that circumstance, do you have the authority to do that without board action since this is a non-action item? And does the timing have to be before July 1?
Before tomorrow, yeah.
I'm assuming since you made the transfer, you can unmake the transfer?
Yes, so transfers within the budget, wherever I've had budgeted transfers, I have the authority to make the transfer into that certain fund. So I've transferred some into the health insurance fund, some into food service, and then to SPED as well. So I could reverse that transfer, yes. So, but I would like you guys to just be aware of it. Mm-hmm.
I appreciate you bringing it to our awareness, and I think that we've expressed our faith and trust in you previously, speaking individually and not as an action item or a vote by any means.
I'd like to just continue going down the funds just so you guys can have an idea. And I'll just go through the big ones where I see concerns. So the special education fund, our beginning fund balance was $23,000. Our revenue, not including this last payment, was $12 million. Our expenses were $13 million, and that includes the transfer that I already did. So our fund balance is negative $1.2 million. Our cash balance was the negative 1.2, where we just had the interfund loan. Our next fund that causes headache was the health insurance. Did I already go through that one? I did, okay. Yeah, those are the main concerns at this point. Everything else has a positive cash balance and a positive ending fund balance. The one that we will be hitting a zero fund balance is the at-risk fund, but that one's restricted for only certain purposes anyways, so it's not like we could transfer or borrow from it at that point.
So to recap, we have the general fund, the insurance fund, and the SPED. Those are the three that are most concerning to you?
Correct. Oh, and our food service, I'm sorry, that's another one. Food service at the end of FY25, the ending funding balance was negative $276,282. Our revenue was $3,576,000. Our expenses were around $3.1 million. And this does not include, right now we have a fund balance of this one we had some deposits hit. This looks better. Where our fund balance is at $102,000. So we were able to pay back. We're positive at this point. I'm not sure if we have one more payment of their contract or not, but that could be something that might hit us at the end where it will be negative again. But I did recommend to Superintendent Anderson that we review the contract because I do think that the projections that we were given were not accurate. We will be saving money just with our labor changes that we're making next year where everyone's going to the contract. That'll help a little bit. But I think we need to have an evaluation of how many students are actually participating in the program and what our options are.
Thank you for looking into that. I was going to ask a question about food service, but that answers it.
And I think that is pretty much it.
All right, is there any questions or further discussion from the board?
If I may, one more quick question, Ms. Dahlke. If there is one more payment due on the contract, generally, is it an equal payment across months or by monthly?
I think their management, like contractor fee, and then there's usually food cost as well. But since we're in June, I don't think there's any food costs because we're done. So.
Okay, so we're not expecting $1 million payout or anything?
No.
Okay,
No.
thank you.
And can I just ask one question about the food service?
Mm-hmm.
With the snacks that they sell or whatever that is that in their contract to do that? Could that
So
be
when they
looked at?
give us their initial bid pricing of how much revenue they think they're gonna take in, they're also including how many snacks they think that they can sell at each site as well. So if they're not making those quotas, that's where our revenues fluctuate, and it does include the snack program.
So could that be looked at in their contract?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you.
I appreciate you bringing that up because I know that there are some, especially at the high school level, there are some clubs that use concession sales of some type to be able to augment their club funds.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be nice to make sure that our students are prioritized over a corporation, if at all possible, while still staying within the nutritional requirements of the law.
Plus, I think too, kids are waiting to have the snacks versus eating. So I'm a little concerned about that too.
Yeah, we had this discussion last meeting with the energy drinks and all of that. I'm starting to notice that even more and more with my own son, and it's concerning.
I also recommend that you guys start watching the Commission on Local Government Finance. You can go on YouTube and watch the May meeting where Douglas County presented, as well as a couple. Incline Village has been in some financial turmoil. They're getting better, but Douglas has been participating. They were officially put on fiscal watch at this May meeting. So they
What's it
were on
called? The Commission on Finance?
Commission on Local Government Finance.
Is there any way you could send us an email?
Yeah. Yep, definitely. They were on the agenda to be declared a severe financial emergency, but they were just fiscal watch at this point. So they presented a plan and they've been making changes and continually going to the meetings quarterly and presenting on that. And
I've talked to their trustees. They've been working hard on it.
mm-hmm.
You mentioned Incline Village. Was that as a municipality, or was it
So
part of?
it's all local governments. So I think on that agenda, even Elko County was on there because their audit was late. So it's any local government in the state of Nevada.
Okay, I just didn't know if the issues pertain to municipalities as well, since Incline doesn't have a school district, at least not Incline, Nevada.
Yeah, it wasn't the school district. It
Okay,
was just, yeah.
thank you.
All right, anything further from the board? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we will move to item 4.07. That's review and discussion regarding proposed revisions to policy BFC, Board Policy and Implementation. Mr. Anderson.
Yep, this is a relatively minor edit to this policy to reflect current practice, the old one from 2008. We've struck out the areas which state that we will provide hard copy policy manuals, as we do not do that anymore. All policy manuals are just available online to everybody. So we've we've removed we have removed the portions that obligate us to waste all that paper. And that is the extent of the intent of.
We're getting with the times, going digital.
Yep. So that's it.
Any discussion from the board on that?
I just have a question about under a midsection there, where it says, the district shall be maintained in a policy manual, if that should say online to kind of match down below that it's on the website, or if it matters.
Could you tell me where you're looking at?
Policy dissemination. The written policies that govern the district shall be maintained in a policy manual to be updated by district staff. Maybe if we could say an online policy manual, so
Oh,
people
okay.
know it's online.
Gotcha. Just add something little right there.
Yeah, just so they know we're not talking about a big old manual like the old days.
And it could protect from somebody walking on the front door expecting to look at a manual if they want to inspect public record.
All right, great.
All right, anything further, board?
Thanks for saving trees.
We'll have that back for a future meeting as an action item.
It's a lot of trees.
All right, moving to 4.08, review and discussion regarding proposed revisions of policy JDAB, student discipline, safe and respectful learning environment, discrimination based on race, bullying, and cyberbullying of students prohibited. Mr. Anderson.
Yep. So JDAB, we did have a I don't know if 3 years ago was a recent edit, but not all that long ago, we had some changes to this off of I believe it was a legislative session. We've had some recent interactions and advice from the Office of Civil Rights, and there were a couple elements of our JDAB that are recommended from both the OCR as well as our own legal counsel, that we add these elements into our policy to make sure that both our policy and our practice as it pertains to bullying, especially including discrimination based on race, that these elements put us more in compliance. So there are two specifics parts that are where we've made additions. The first one's on page 4, where we define a little bit more what a hostile learning environment is. And then the last addition is on page 7, where if there's nothing here right now that clarifies what happens if these things cross districts. And so it makes sure to clarify that there is an element of burden of effort on our part to still collaborate with and reach out to families, students, staff from other districts, should there be something that happens between our districts. And those are the two sections that we're suggesting we add to.
Thank you. Any discussion from the board?
I have a question on 9C. The first sentence isn't a complete sentence like the other ones are.
Yep, I see that.
And then would the parents, if you're talking about in another district, do the parents need to be notified like it's said in 9B?
Okay, I hear what you're saying, yeah. If we're gonna notify the parents of kids in our district, we ought to notify the parents of kids in another district, yeah. I hear you. Okay, so we'll make an effort to change that sentence fragment into a complete sentence with its intent, and then figure out how to either reference B above it or just explicitly state it there in C as well.
Sorry, this was in regards to 9C?
Yep.
I'm missing the fragment. The investigation conducted pursuant,
Just the first
Correct.
sentence doesn't
right,
include ever.
because it is part of a continuation.
But the rest all have a complete sentence at the beginning.
So interviews with all students whose parents or guardians must be notified And then, so that's B, interviews with all known witnesses with potentially relevant information. So that is, because it's saying the investigation must include interviews with all known witnesses with potentially relevant information. I'm just missing what.
Yeah, I'm just saying the rest of those, like D starts with a complete sentence, B is a complete sentence, but C isn't. So I'm just
Okay.
trying to keep to,
Well, then perhaps we'll look across all
But
however you want to
points of it
do
to
it,
make
it
sure
doesn't.
it just follows
Consistency.
formatting.
Yeah.
Yep,
Okay.
gotcha. Thank you for noting that, Matt.
All right, anything further on that policy? All right, hearing nothing, we'll move on to 4.09. That's review and discussion regarding policy IHFA, academic achievement, credit recovery.
Yep, so I'll start, and then at some point, I'll probably turn some time over to Brooke. So back in, I think it was our jackpot meeting as well in April, this was first presented. So there are three attachments. The first was the one that was presented back at that meeting, the one that is titled Red Line, Policy IHFA Red Line, is that one, that previous one, but with a couple of minor edits based on your feedback from the board. And then the third attachment is, Brooke had quite a bit of suggestion, and so we sort of decided at that point that maybe we would edit ours and Brooke could come up with a similar, or we could collaborate with one another. So we did have a meeting, me, Brooke, Emily, and I met together to discuss, and Brooke decided to have a different version, which is great. And so we've presented a couple of versions here. I probably should have started with a little more background. This is regarding the current credit recovery options that are available to our students throughout the budget conversations. There was an appetite for possibly charging parents and students for second attempts at classes. There was a little bit of hesitancy from some staff side, but also understanding the point. Anyway, we've brought these different versions here for you today. Because we have a version that you've never seen before, and because it's been now a couple of months since we last looked at it, we decided not to have this available for any action today, but rather give you both options to look at and for consideration, and possibly give feedback to both as well, with the eventual goal at a subsequent meeting being to potentially adopt one of the two, whether it be the one that the staff worked on or the one that Brooke has finalized or brought at this time. So yeah, that's I'll talk to ours. They're all ours. We're all on the same team. The one that was developed by staff has just a few edits. I'll just call those out. We clarified in the first paragraph, struck out for foundational years, and just really emphasized that in-person instruction is the primary and most effective and preferred way of students receiving both initial instruction as well as credit recovery. However, clarifying that online credit recovery is an option in certain scenarios. We struck out the on-time graduation under the juniors and seniors section 2(1)(a). So it just reads now eligible for online credit recovery for any core elective courses required for graduation. And then the last thing that was struck was under 4.3b, this concept of demonstrating a renewed plan for success. We just left it at obtain specific administrator approval, and those are all the changes we made to the one that was presented back in April. Does anyone want to give any feedback or have any further questions on that one before I sort of pass it over to Brooke to talk about hers.
Could I just ask, do we have summer school this year?
Yeah, there's summer school occurring.
And is that always a given? And I only say that because it's mentioned in both policies, so like what would happen if we didn't have summer school because of budget reasons or whatever?
Up to this point, it's been a given that we
Okay.
always have summer school.
Okay. And sorry, before you go on, Brooke. So if the students, I'm looking at Roman numeral 2, number 2, A. So failed courses must be completed through in-person instruction. Just curious what you think, and not saying students are the most important part, so I don't want anyone to misinterpret that. What would that do for class sizes, do you think? Like, I know you can't give an exact number, but what is your best guess of what that might do for class sizes?
That's gonna vary from school to school based on how many teachers you have for a specific content area. I believe we looked at what those numbers looked like, and it wouldn't necessarily create a huge burden to where we'd have to hire additional teachers. It could, in certain scenarios, mean we have to provide a 0 hour at a certain school. It's just tough to know, though, especially given that there are places where there are exceptions. Who knows? Everyone could say, well, I just want to do the exception then. And so then it would have no impact whatsoever. It would just depend on kind of what people's approach to that would be. So it's tough to know that for sure.
Okay.
Along those lines, though, that portion of the policy hasn't been changed, correct? So we've already been doing that theoretically as long as the policy's been being followed?
This is a new policy.
Is this completely new, all of this?
Yeah, this
Okay, my
is a
apologies then.
proposed policy.
Okay. Sorry.
That's
Usually
okay.
I'm better on that.
No, it's all right. It's been a couple months, like I said.
And then my other question was under Roman numeral 4, numbers 2 and 3. If a student fails an online course, English, I'll just bring up English.
Sure.
So they fail that, they can't redo it, but they can still take a science course if they haven't, like it's per subject, right? So they can still do an online course in science, and then if they fail that.
That's the proposal.
Okay. And then my other question is, if we always talk about how you need this in order to go on to the next, like, you know, it's kind of all linked together. So if we have juniors and seniors, I'm just throwing that grade level out there, and they're in, like, say, a senior, so they're in English 4, but we want them to take English 1. Do they not? That just seems
So,
odd
yeah,
to me.
no, I hear what you're saying. That's not always the case that if they don't pass English 1, we don't allow them in English 2. They might just be taking those courses subsequently, or sorry, concurrently. They'd be taking English 1 and English 2 at the same time.
And can that possibly lead to failure? I'm just thinking, you know, is it different? Maybe that's a better term to use. Is it different than when you're doing, say, a math course? Like, I'm going to be in pre-algebra and algebra 2? Like, that just seems off to me. So does it not work the same with English? Maybe it doesn't matter as much because it's different readings, or I don't know. Am I making sense with the question?
So I understand what you're asking. Sorry, I understand kind of your train of thought, but I'm not sure I understand what you're suggesting.
It just seems odd if somebody fails it. Oh, maybe this is better. If they fail the course, are they urged to complete that failed course immediately the next semester instead of, oh, you can wait another year and a half and then go back and complete it? Maybe that's a better way to look at that.
Yeah,
Sorry, I'm looking to, I don't know.
Sure. Again, thinking about different campuses and how they can accommodate and adapt to scenarios. If there's flexibility within a schedule because of electives or other such things, a student could potentially, but the problem is if you failed first semester English and you go on to second semester English 1, let's just go with English 1 again. Nobody's teaching first semester English 1 in the second semester. It's not like a college campus where there's lots of things happening all the time. So there isn't really an opportunity to retake first semester English 1 during second semester. However, that will happen again the fall of the following year. And so that's where that opportunity exists. So it's either you, because we're limited in number of course offerings and teachers and things like that at each campus, you either have to do it online whenever it works for you, or you do it when we offer it in person.
So that could be something that maybe a zero hour comes in if there were many students that needed to retake English 1 and now we're in second semester or first semester of whatever course.
Yeah, I could see that being a scenario. I only think that would happen, just guessing, that would probably only happen at 1, maybe 2 of our campuses to where you would have enough failures in one content area and one subject, not even a content area, but one course to necessitate a 0 hour for an entire semester. It wouldn't be the case at most of our schools, though, especially just because of how small they are. You're not going to, because pretty much all of our combined schools, like there's one grade, there's one period for each class, right? So you're not going to have enough kids that are in that scenario.
Okay. I'll be quiet now, so
Those are great.
Scholar
Those are
can
great
go on
thoughts.
to hers.
Brooke.
My turn? Okay. In mine, it's not as neatly done. Everything that I wanted to remove is in red, and then everything that I added is in blue. Although I think one of them should have been in blue. It would be under 3. So I removed it. It looks like it's deleted out of there, but really it's just moved to be number 2. So the first number 1, self-funded, it's red, but it's been moved to number 2. And then number 1, prior in-person attempt required, that should be in blue because that is something that I added. Prior in-person attempt required, the student must have the first attempted to recover the failed credit through an approved in-person course and not successfully earned the required credit, and then it would move to that self-funded. And then also there's the or, and then it goes to number 3. So I just added things in there a little bit. I feel like to give these kids a little bit more skin in the game. I do have in there that any student under, 4 under performance and financial accountability. I did add failed attempts. You'll see I struck out the red portion there and added the any student who fails a district-funded online credit recovery course shall be responsible for the cost of that failed online recovery seat and is ineligible for further district-funded online credit recovery seats. The student parent must reimburse the district for the cost of the failed attempt unless waived pursuant to the district's financial hardship provisions. So I feel like that's a difference also in mine versus what they put together. Because if they fail an online, in the other policy, if they fail an online course, they still can have district-funded courses in a different subject area, where I kind of feel like if they take an online credit recovery and they fail math at the district's expense, I mean, I wouldn't say, okay, now here's your chance at science. Let's pay for you to also do science. So I just feel like it kind of puts a little bit more, I don't know, makes it a little tougher for them in that sense that they kind of know when they take those online credit recovery, especially at the expense of the districts, that they better buckle down and do their best and pass that class. So anyway, if you have any questions about that at all, my policy.
And so Brooke, just to confirm, you're saying that juniors, because you're removing juniors out of eligibility with the
Yes.
seniors and you're dropping it down.
Yep.
So only seniors will
Only
be
seniors are eligible for online recovery.
for the core or elective courses required for graduation.
Yep.
Would you have any objection to copying what the other plan proposes and get rid of on time?
Yeah, so I noticed some of the changes because I didn't see what their changes were when I did my policy, so I would have no opposition to getting rid of on time. I also like what they added under
Primary
one
instruction?
purpose
Yeah.
up there. I liked that addition that they did there, so I would like to add that too. I really liked the wording of that.
And then under 4.3b, strike plan for success, you'd be okay with striking that as well?
Yep, and that was just in their policy to begin with, and so I just thought I'd keep that in there, but if that's not something that they think is necessary to be in the policy, I would be fine striking that also.
I had a question, if it's all right. If we're looking on 4, well, I guess let's take 1, 2, and then your blue paragraph there. The first one says, first attempt, the district will cover the cost of the initial online recovery seat for eligible seniors. But then in the blue, and then it says failed attempts, any student who fails an online credit recovery course is ineligible for further district-funded online seats in that subject area. But then in the blue paragraph, it says any student who fails a district-funded online credit recovery course shall be responsible for the cost of that failed online recovery seat. And then it continues. So if on 4, Roman numeral 4, item 1, it says the district will cover the cost of that seat. But then in the blue paragraph, it says any student who fails a district-funded online course will be responsible for the cost of that.
Yeah, they'll have
Failed
to
online
reimburse
recovery.
the district.
So the district will cover it, but if it says, the district will cover it, but if they fail, then they have to reimburse the district. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And does that prevent graduation if they don't pay? What's the consequence? Do we take them to small claims court? How do we, I don't know what that teeth is.
Technically, yes, like whether it's computer fees or recovery fees or whatever, every school makes every effort they can to try to settle and resolve unpaid fees before a student can receive their diploma.
And just to confirm.
For instance, like if someone broke their Chromebook, there's a
Right.
fee associated with that. And so I've talked to administrators at like the high school level and they talk about, withholding diplomas until those fees are paid.
Okay. And 4.2 in red is being removed.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
thank
just
you.
kind of reworded it, so the red portion, it is included in what I added
Yeah.
there, really, but I just kind of reworded it to where first attempts for eligible seniors are paid for, but if they fail that online attempt, then they're responsible for it. They
Okay.
have to reimburse the district.
Thank you.
If it's,
And, sorry, I just wanted to say, and also in there, it says that they are ineligible for further district-funded online credit recovery seats, like I said before, not just in that subject area, but in general.
just based on some experience with this, sometimes some classes are easier to do online than others. So I don't like the idea of saying if you failed one course, you can't do any, because a student may have figured out, hey, I should not have taken math online, but I know I can do English online, or whatever the subjects. I seem to be focused on math and English. So personally, I don't like that idea. And for me, I've been thinking a lot about this. I thought our goal was kids are not taking the online courses seriously, or they're doing them in lieu of an in-person course. And then what's happening is they get done and then they get thrown into a study hall because it's too late to enroll them in a class. Is my understanding the need. So I'm torn between, like, I understand that, but we also want to provide an education for kids. So if they failed for an in-person course, do we charge them for that? Because, you know, so I've kind of been weighing that back and forth with that. And not that I think they should, you know, get to take as many as they want and fail them just because. I understand that there does need to be some accountability. Is there any way that we could do something where they have to take it partly before and after school so that they're still enrolled in courses, so it doesn't matter whether they finish early, they're still going to be enrolled in their courses, not a study hall? Is there a workaround with that? Or am I getting too complicated?
Can I just throw in, while you're thinking about that, can I just throw in kind of my thoughts on that?
Yeah.
Is that with the online credit recovery, we know there is a fee associated with that, where if they retake English or they have to retake a math class.
We're paying the teacher either way.
Right. Those classes are already happening. For the most part, those kids are going to be able to re-enter that in-person class setting at really no extra expense to the district. And so
It's still putting a burden on that class that there's one person in there that wouldn't be there normally. So it's adding to class sizes, if you look at it that way. And I'm not saying, yeah, you failed a course, so you're gonna charge someone for, I was being a little of a smart aleck on that one. I
And-
do understand your point, and I thank you for working on this, Brooke.
I just really would prefer to see those kids in where they have an in-person instructor and some, you know, support in a classroom setting versus getting through it quickly online. And we've heard from so many teachers and different people in the district saying that they can kind of cheat their way through those online classes and they're not sure that they're actually really mastering the content by taking those online classes and regaining that credit. So just making sure that they are learning that content that
Exactly.
they need to be.
And if we're finding they're cheating their way through, then maybe we should be looking at these credit recovery classes.
Yeah, part of.
I mean, some of it is maybe kids, for whatever reason, were bored in class and didn't feel like completing it, but then they get into the online course, they're like, wow, and they just zoom through it. Who's to say they didn't learn the content?
Speaking from experience, well, even though it wasn't online, that was the case when I was a stupid freshman. I failed English, and then it was the easiest thing in the world for me to do it. But it was easy all along, too. I was just being lazy, and I was very capable, and I got it done, no problem, in the summer. But so I think that happens. There are many reasons someone ends up failing a class, and from a lazy person to someone who just truly struggles. But going to the point of the cheating with the online, something that we've started to address is there's a feature of Google that made it somewhat easier for kids to do that, and that feature has been basically disabled on our end for kids to be able to utilize that. Now, that's not to say that there are many other workarounds, and that's been pretty much my take on anything having to do with AI or technology or whatever. Everyone's always worried about how do we stop them from cheating. I'm not going to ask by raise of hand who here cheated when they were in middle school or high school, but probably didn't even hardly use a computer, definitely didn't have AI when you and I were in school, and we still figured out ways to cheat. So if we're going to chase the cheating wagon and try to make things about that, I think we're chasing the wrong thing. I think what we need to be chasing is how engaging our instruction is and how how well we're doing on first-time, high-quality instruction, and teach our kids how to use tools appropriately. So just like a little bit of a
Well, and-
soapbox moment there.
If they're taking an online course right now, a credit recovery online course, aren't they being supervised by someone?
Yeah.
So to me, that cheating is a different, like, that's up to who's ever in the room.
I'm gonna throw this out there too. I talked to a couple administrators and they said that there's no way for a teacher to walk around the classroom and make sure kids aren't playing games on their laptops instead of doing the coursework. Because I have a kid that I'm like, how are you not getting all of this work done? Why aren't these assignments turned in? Why do you have a million missing assignments? Pretty much got out of him that he's figured out how to play games on his computer instead of doing work. And so even if they're being monitored, like, I don't know how much a teacher can really monitor what's happening. And
Well, we do have a program that allows them to monitor all the kids' computers, so there is a way to do it.
The program
Besides
also allows you to
walking around.
limit which websites they can be
Yeah.
on at any given time.
So it is
Yeah.
doable, but.
They're still crafty.
it's still tough. I'm
Yeah.
just saying, yeah,
Yep.
it's still tough, even if they're being monitored.
So then if I'm understanding correctly, at the next meeting or at a subsequent meeting, we'll basically be voting between these two policies, correct? We're just looking at changes to each and/or
Yeah, so if you have
either?
any suggestions to either one,
Great.
I mean, I suppose if you already know, like, I don't like that one, you know, whatever, you're gonna vote no against it anyway, then you probably don't need to waste your
Making
time.
any
with
changes on
making- Making changes to it, but if you think both are decent options and you wanna get to a point where you're voting on both, then you could provide suggestions to both.
I appreciate it. I think the only suggestions I would make, Brooke, would be to, or on Brooke's suggestions would be to include what was suggested by the administration side of things, the district side, and give two policies that are similar but yet do have some fundamental differences, and I think the board can make that decision. I appreciate the time from staff, and then Brooke, I appreciate your time as well. Thank you.
I will say with mine, after hearing Susan saying, you know, they might be able to do English online, but might struggle with math, I can totally see that, so I wouldn't be opposed either to editing mine to just say in that, just like the district says, in that subject area, I wouldn't be opposed to that.
Thank you, because that was the only other change I was going to make, is that if we are going to stick with that, then we need to clarify across all subject areas. So, yeah, I think if you just put in there for that subject area, then I think that would resolve Susan's concern and still add the specificity that we're looking for.
One thing I like about yours, Brooke, is that you do create a true in-person first rule there where I think we can all agree that in-person instruction is going to be better. And if we can lean towards that as much as possible, I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, I think we all agree on leaning towards that as much as possible. I would just advise against going too hard, too fast on any one of these things. I think that you're always going to have some sort of need or exigent circumstances for an exception, and that's where the power of leaving administrator approval, et cetera, having those exceptions where people can have options.
Yeah, because we want to meet the needs of all of our students, and
Correct.
sometimes that's online, which is why we have a virtual academy. I mean, otherwise, why do we have that?
Yeah.
So, I mean, in this day and age, it's changed a lot, so we need to meet those needs.
I do want to point out in my policy, it is under the online exceptions for underclassmen. It does say one would be prior in-person attempt required and self-funded for underclassmen, or the administrative approval. So it still does leave some leeway there.
Just one thought on in-person, which I am totally in favor of in-person instruction. But if there's a student who potentially just does not get along with a teacher, and there's a struggle, and that's real, that happens, and that is the only teacher in that school that provides that class, you know, would that be something where they would get administration approval so that they could do an online version? Because I think we need to be mindful that sometimes that's just reality, and that's not going to be a huge number, but that will be, you know, there will be a number of students that have that issue for sure. Yes.
That's a good point.
I've
would
had a
make
few
that
bosses
argument.
like that too.
Well, and I'd make the argument that the administrative approval would be there, unless, of course, it's the senior side, but I think even in the senior side, there's an option. So I think, yeah, that's a great point, because I just made my son deal with the teachers he didn't like. Welcome to life.
That's what I've told them too, Sam. You're gonna have bosses you don't like, coworkers you don't like, but guess what? You gotta. But yeah, I see what you're saying. No,
You
there
have a
are
s-
extremes,
if-
absolutely.
That's gonna choose not to come to school for that
Yeah.
reason,
Yeah.
we want to make sure they
We
have
want
an
them at
option.
school.
And I guess one other question I have, I don't know how many students who are in credit recovery are there because they're just bored of the pacing in their class. Because maybe they are a really exceptional student, but the pacing in their class is really slow. So like, hey, if I do this online, I can just get through all this because this clicks for me. I have no idea how many students are in that situation. And that might be something we just have to deal with completely differently, because I think sometimes we are really looking at how to take care of our students that struggle, but our students who accelerate or who excel, I think sometimes get held back. So I'm just curious if we have students in that situation who are there because, like, I get this, I can get through this, and I can move on. Just something to think about in that regard as well.
That would be an interesting data point to maybe present, whether it's Ray or Candace or somebody, Emily, not Candace, but Emily, of how quickly is somebody passing a course? And if there's a pattern there, then maybe that is somebody we need to just watch, but I don't know, again, how much work that would take. Is there a reason under the proposed one from the district that includes juniors in with the seniors under the eligibility by grade level? Is that to allow for earlier graduation?
Why we had juniors in that section? I think it was just so you didn't push things too late. Like,
Gotcha.
if you cram all that into, this can only happen during senior year, you might be putting a little too much burden, because no big deal if we're talking about one failed course, but if you've got multiple, it can become cumbersome there at the end. And so just to make sure we don't end up in a situation where someone says, well, throw up my hands, I can't do all that this in 1 year. So then now we have a non-graduate.
And Brooke, you were looking at, they have time up to that. I mean, unless they're failing it in the junior year, they still have that time on sophomore or junior year, is what you were looking at?
Yeah, I think if they have any failed classes, they try to recover those in person, sophomore and junior year.
As soon as they can.
And there may be cases where that's just not a possibility, but that's where that administrative approval can kind of come in. So
Okay.
it's not a definitive, this is how it has to be done. There is some room there for administrators to kind of say, in this situation, things maybe need to be a little bit different. But for the most part, I really do believe that in-person credit recovery for freshmen, sophomore, and juniors should all be pushed towards in-person credit recovery, and then only kind of have that online option available to seniors.
Thank you both.
All right, any further discussion on these two?
Brooke, on yours, Roman numeral 3, number 1, in black, you have recovered the failed credit through an approved in-person course. Is that in the other policy? But what do you mean by approved in-person course? Aren't all of our courses we offer approved?
To recover if that failed. So she's saying they had tried it a second time.
Yeah, well, and I guess she's saying all of our courses are approved, so that word wouldn't technically need to be in there, I guess. It could just say the student must first attempt to recover the failed credit through an in-person course and not successfully earned the required credit.
I think approved should stay.
But-
Should
Yeah.
stay, it should
I mean,
definitely
That
stay.
means it's accredited through us.
Right.
It doesn't
okay.
hurt anything.
Yes, that is true.
Okay, that explains it, thank you.
It doesn't add any harm to it, so.
That was gonna be my second.
No, Matt.
You passed, great.
No.
All right, unless there's anything further, we will move on now to item 4.10, review and discussion regarding proposed policy IIC testing credit by examination. Mrs. Nelson? Yes.
Good afternoon, everybody. It is absolutely coincidental that we have these two policies back to back, but it is kind of an interesting conversation. Really, this policy is just to be in compliance with the law. So everything here is lined out in NRS 389.171 and the NAC 389.670. And this was made some time ago that we should be able to test through to accelerate. And I think it was not a popular choice for most of our students, so it never became part of our policy because there are some pitfalls to this, but we still want to give kids the option. One of the pitfalls, though, is that this is just for a pass-fail. So it does not, a lot of our accelerated kids do want, their grades to count, and this would not count for them toward their GPA, only for the credit. And the other pitfall is that any pass-fail course, the NCAA will not recognize. So if you have any students that want to go on to play sports in college, they wouldn't be able to accept those courses. So I think for those reasons, this has not been popular for students. But like I said, we do need to be compliant with the law. And so we want to make this option available. This is also something that could help with our students who are coming in from the charter school. They do not have currently a teacher that is qualified at the high school level to teach Algebra 1, but they are giving kids Algebra 1 lessons that apply. And so those students would be able to take a test like this and have that Algebra 1 credit coming into the high school.
So in that, you said they would be able to?
Yeah, they could take this, all of the eligibility requirements of a charter school student coming in, they would meet that eligibility. They'd be able to take this test, and if they passed it with a 70% or higher, they'd be able to get that credit.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, if I may?
Yes.
A couple of quick questions. Is it possible, going kind of back to Susan's question earlier about taking concurrent courses, is it possible to take more than 4 maths in a high school trajectory? Okay. So as to your point then that it would be a pass-fail, they could still come in and find it doesn't count towards GPA for Algebra 1, but they could still take then geometry, Algebra 2, trigonometry, whatever comes after that, calculus, pre-calculus, whatever that is.
Absolutely.
Okay. And so that still gives them that option for GPA, just that wouldn't count for them. Okay.
Yeah.
And then to the NCAA, are you saying that if geometry is required for NCAA admission with a high school diploma, they would reject the entire diploma? They could reject the entire diploma through NCAA?
They wouldn't reject the diploma per se. They would just be looking at the transcripts, and they wouldn't accept a transcript where you had a pass-fail grade.
Okay.
That was
How-
required by the
So if they're not-
NCAA to take.
Okay, so if they're not rejecting the diploma, odds are NCAA probably is not worried about the lower level courses.
You would think, but they are.
Huh.
They will scrutinize transcripts.
And so even though you've gotten those past that, they'll still go back and say, nope, you got to retake high school.
Yeah, you're going to be taking Math
Geometry.
101 again.
Actually, 096.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I know from personal experience, not my own. I wasn't going to play in college, but I had a family member who did, and she had her diploma scrutinized in that way. and she had taken some online courses and they were not going to accept those. And so she had to take other courses right in the nick of time to be able to have them pass.
Interesting. I know and I don't know how it transfers to, upper division, Division 1, 2, 3, whatever it is, but
Yeah, that was,
it also
that
allows
was,
a challenge by
Division 1.
test. So I'm assuming a Division 1 would allow a challenge by test, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
so Division 1, that's why this is put together, is that I want to make sure that we're following the law, but we also understand that students that are planning to go and play sports in college, that they understand that this policy.
Could impact their athletic career.
Exactly.
No, I
Yeah.
think that's wise and kind. Thank you.
And listed in the policy.
So is it according to law that it has to be a pass-fail? Is that written into law? Okay, thank you. So it couldn't, so if they passed the test with 100%, they would still just get a pass?
Right.
They would not get an A?
It's explicit in the law that they have to pass by 70% and that it doesn't weigh into their GPA.
Anything further from the board on this policy?
A couple, I guess. Well, maybe. Can you explain like number 4? And I know you've told me before, but like the Edmonton tests?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So we do have some opportunity to determine what kind of exam the students can take. The state allows us to choose. And so in the policy, I gave examples of what the state has said that they would accept. So AP exams can be used, and CLEP exams can be used, and we would be able to use an exam that the Edmonton provides. And I just included the Edmonton rather than Ingenuity because Edmonton is the provider that we use, but Ingenuity also has similar exams. There are others online, and so those would all be state-approved exams.
So this would be something they take. How would I? Okay, they can't be like in junior high and do this. They have to be in high school. Then they could take one of those.
Right. So, for instance, if we can pass this policy, then I could reach out to the incoming freshmen and say, if you want to take one of these, an exam for one of these courses, because it's not just math, there are others as well, then we would set that up at the district level for them to come in and take that exam so that we would pay for it. It would come through the district rather than just the individual sites.
And so you would pick one of these based on what subject area? Okay.
Yep.
So on that point, before we move on, Susan, sorry to interject. Theoretically, if I'm reading this right, Adobe is considered an Elko County School District secondary school, correct?
For what purpose?
Well, because it says in here, enrollment in an ECSD secondary school is the primary, or is the initial eligibility. So to Susan's point, somebody in 8th grade at Adobe could, under this policy, take that, but somebody at 8th grade at a charter school would not be able to take that, which I don't have a problem with because we're still giving them that access prior to freshman year. But theoretically, an 8th grader at Adobe could, or for that matter, do the combined schools count as secondary or elementary?
Yeah.
So any 8th grader currently enrolled in the district could take it, but you couldn't take it if you were not enrolled under this policy.
So I would dissuade any junior high student unless there were some real exceptional reasons to move a student through this, because they can only take the test once and then they don't get to retake it for any reason. So there's no reason to move through this too quickly, unless there's some strange reason that a student that would need to I just don't know why we would do that.
Perhaps we do clarify that in the policy then of incoming ninth graders unless with approval of the administrator. Similar to what we did on the last one with the administrator can okay it, but that way it stops somebody from trying to challenge it right away of saying, yep, I'm gonna do it.
Let me just go back to Rob on that one and make sure that we legally can, because the language of the law is so specific that I don't want to say that we can do something if we can't.
Yeah, if the NRS or NAC says secondary school, then we can't say something.
Well, and I have a question too. So like, let's say a student at the charter school was a 7th grader, student at the charter school, and they took Algebra 1 and passed it, but then they're planning to come to an Elko County School District school for 8th grade, and they would like to move on to geometry as an 8th grader, which is happening in our district. If you only said incoming 9th graders, I feel like that would even limit those students.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. That might be a opportunity that we would allow students to take that exam.
Okay. Can I just throw in one idea that I have? So we're under 6, it says application and administrative procedures. Can we add something in there? A, it has application submission. It talks about how they have to submit the application form and that it requires signatures of the student, parent, school counselor, and site principal. I would like to see something in there that says that the student and family need to be, because I want to be sure that these students, when they do this, that they're informed because unless they look at this policy, they may not know that this could affect them playing ball at the college level or whatever. So make sure that under that application and administrative procedures that those things are on the application and spelled out so that when they do this, they don't all of a sudden get to their senior year and go, what do you mean this isn't gonna hurt me? And then they're last minute trying to, like the woman that you were talking about had to last minute, and luckily she was able to have it done in time. But just so we can avoid that.
Yeah, no, I think you make a really good point. And I have created a companion application that I was working on, and that was also very important to me in that application, because those are 2 big hangups that I just don't want kids or families to feel like we duped them in some way, because a lot of our students who are accelerated, they want that GPA to reflect it. They want to go on to play sports often, just things that they may not consider when they're 8th graders, but they might when they are juniors or seniors.
And I love that you're putting that in the application. I just know applications can change. So I think it also needs to be spelled out in the policy.
Good point.
That parents and students are informed of those things.
Yes.
Something I would just suggest to Emily as we look at any minor adjustments to this are under section 4 where Susan was asking about Admentum. Given that provider has changed multiple times just in my tenure as superintendent, we may want to just change Admentum to something more generic of like our chosen online course provider or something like that.
Yeah.
Just not to call it a specific company or provider.
Okay, yeah, I will, I can change that to a state-approved vendor, because we have a list of state-approved vendors.
Anything else to add, anyone?
I have another question on 6B. the applications 30 days prior to the district's designated testing windows? Is that so that you can gather up all the people that want to take it and test them at the same time? Or what is the purpose for that?
So again, that is in law.
Okay.
And I think it's just so that students can't say, I'm gonna turn this in and it's a day before, and this gives, it's kind of actually a nice thing that the law is providing a timeline for schools so they don't have to all of a sudden provide a test with a 1-week notice.
And there are also certain tests that are only administered at certain times of year. Like if an AP test is going to be the one that is used, AP is very specific on one day out of the year where that test is offered. And so someone couldn't just say, I want to take that AP test tomorrow. They'd have to meet a deadline for it.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, some laws aren't just so explicit, and this one really was.
Ms. Nielsen, is sociology required?
No.
Thank you. I'm just reading through NAC now and got down a rabbit hole. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
We, this will be coming back again too, folks, so. All right, anything further? All right, thank you very much. All right,
You
we'll
bet.
move to item 5.01, the superintendent's report.
Oh, yeah. I am just going to share, hopefully I don't take anything from Jeff, but Jeff and I got to meet with, let you all know that you all sent out a letter to prospective legislators, et cetera, and we had someone bite on that, and we got to speak with a legislative candidate named Patsy Carvalho and had a great meeting with her, and she was very interested to know about our concerns, our pain points, et cetera, with, we talked primarily about funding. She's a current teacher, right?
Yeah, she's a teacher in North Las Vegas. She's a Republican candidate for District
21.
Was it 20?
Or
21?
21 or 24.
I just want to say 22, but
Ringing
that's
some
not.
bells,
It's
I don't
21.
know. Sorry if I got that
So
wrong.
they're in North Las Vegas.
Yep. Anyway, great meeting with her, and I thought it was wonderful that someone took us up on that, and it'd be great to hear from others. But it reminded me of back when during the last election cycle, I think it was. Is it Erica Muska? Is that her name?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she was someone who really wanted to speak to the rurals and hear about our issues, even though she's from the Vegas area, and she's turned out to be she's turned out to
I
be
believe
awesome.
she'll be the next education chair.
And she's on the CIEE with Teresa and I. She's very involved.
She also met with us down in Vegas at that last.
She drove up here personally and met with me when she was running, I believe. So anyway, wonderful meeting, and appreciate her willingness to reach out and hear from voices all across the state, even though sometimes Vegas gets a bad rap for different reasons, but there's a lot of great people there who care very much about our schools, and so just shout out to Patsy Carvalho. And that'll be it for me today.
Yeah, that was a great conversation. Thank you, Mr. Ennis. Is there anything for the superintendent? All right, we will move to a NASB update, 6.01, which I don't have much there. We're a special meeting here anyway.
I just have a reminder that I sent you each an email that had your specific application, nomination application for you to type up and have by mid-August.
Oh, good, because it was today.
No, it wasn't today.
No,
You would have got a lot more emails. You would have got texts.
There you go. Thank you.
all right, perfect. Then we will move on to 6.02 is board member comments and requests for future agenda items. Does anyone have anything?
I do.
Go ahead, Trustee Neal.
Sorry. We need to set a time or a meeting so we can set up a calendar for the year, calendarize items like Dr. Alsbury has talked with us about for quite a while. We need a template for reporting that I think Mr. Anderson comes up with, and then we approve it based on what we want to see on those reports. And not necessarily for the next meeting. I'm not saying for the next meeting, just some things we need to think about coming up soon. We haven't done our own board evaluation. A reminder, our strategic goals should be the focus at our meeting, like 70% of meetings should monitor progress. I feel like we're kind of getting away from that or not achieving. And like he had mentioned, having the topics, but we did that in our other one, so I won't even say anything. And, sorry, I did have a Nevada State Board of Education meeting on Friday, so just a quick update. They talked about the developmental delay disability category, because right now I believe it's at age 6. There was a motion to change it to 9, that didn't pass. Then there was a motion to change it to 8, that didn't pass. And some of it was because a lot of members were missing. So that'll be back on a future agenda. It seems like a lot of people around the state want the age of 8, up to the age of 8. They approved RFP to find a vendor for Nevada State summative assessments. So that will be coming up. We received a presentation on read by grade 3 retention requirements. We're gonna have to decide on a cutoff score possibly next month. The board is working on developing and updating their goals. So just a question, not a question, but if you have ideas, one of the board members suggested we should ask school boards, what can the Nevada State Board of Education do to make your life easier? So if you have comments, suggestions, ideas, if you would email those to me and I will bring those back. And then, as usual, the public is welcome to attend or to make public comments. Our next meeting is July 29th, and you can check the Department of Ed website. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I would like to see in a future meeting too about, I have a couple comments from parents that special education, that they feel like their students are just in school, they're just, like the teachers are just babysitting, they're not actually learning. And that's just, in the class where there's only like a few students, not in an inclusive class. And in my experience, I noticed that the teacher was always computer field, doing reports or just taking a class. So most of the students were just with aids. So the teachers are getting all this work that they have to do, reports and taking class, doing class. And I just want to know what is it that they're doing, and it's we're giving them too much to do instead of teaching the students. So parents can feel like, yeah, my student's special need, but he's learning, she's learning. They go to school to learn, not to just sit there and do anything. And that's one thing. And another thing, just happy 4th of July next weekend. Have fun. And that's it for me.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Happy Independence Day, Happy America 250, semi-quincentennial, just because it's a great word to say. It should be on the spelling test next year. Semi-quincentennial.
I got it.
Yeah, I love that word. That's a great word. There's a whole bunch, there's like 3 or 4 for it. It's awesome.
I remember the sesquicentennial
Yes.
from when I was, well, that was 25 years ago, right?
Yeah. So, see, there we go. Along those lines, the Elko Flag Foundation for the Elko Independence Day Parade, which is actually the Silver State Stampede Parade. The Elko Flag Foundation manages the large garrison flags over by Flag View, which is why it's named such. And for the first time in the history of the city of Elko, they are walking it down the parade route. It's so large that they have two flags, and the larger of the two flags doesn't fit down the road. So they had to go to the smaller of the two. So recommend folks being able to come out and take a look at that. It's going to be 1:30 on Saturday in the Elko Spring Creek area. You can hit the Spring Creek one and then come into Elko if you'd like. I'm not sure where the outlying cities have their timing, but hopefully 1:30 allows folks to come in and see it. It's going to be kind of cool. So thank you to the youth of the community that are doing that. And again, happy Independence Day. Thanks all.
Anything over here? All good? All good. Happy 4th of July, everyone. We'll go ahead and move to item 7.01, input from the public. Is there any input from the public? Hearing none, we will adjourn. Thank you, everyone.